What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism with my wife doing research on a Sunday afternoon because, that's how we roll. Right, babe?
West Side.
Hope everybody is doing fantastic. That's the goal, at least. We had to come live because I need to show something that I found that I thought was, what would you call it, babe? Scary, to say the least?
To say the very least.
Yeah, it's
If anything, it
pretty
should cause
damn scary.
riot.
It should cause riots.
It should cause people to pull a situation from occurring if you have the power to.
Pull your kids out of school.
Okay, basically, yes.
You were trying to hide the punchline?
Yes.
So let me show you what we found, and we'll take you it's going to take not very long because we're going to kind of lead you through the path that we took when we found this today. And hopefully you see the problems with it that we do. Mm-hmm. So one second here, let me make sure that we have this open. Okay, so I found this site, and it is called, let me get it up here for me. Okay, so it's challenger.org, which is the site is basically Challenger Center. I'll take it back one. And I was going through this site, and basically I saw that it was organized with NASA and said, okay, what is this group? So I went there, found it. And then we see all these children's lessons, which of course I get frustrated at. I'm like, oh man, they're teaching kids space. Mm-hmm. What else is new? And as I went through this little website here, I saw that there's all kinds of these little missions for elementary school. So you'll see that there is how do we explore strange environments? Where in the solar system are we? Nano critters. There's stuff about make a constellation, shuttle coordinates. As you get to middle school, you're talking watch out, layers of the moon, how shape and size affects viewpoints, investigating an object's actual size compared to its apparent size. And when you download these little lessons, like you'll get this one is a lesson in perspective, which talks about how the moon and the sun appear to be the same size, but why they're clearly not. Pretty interesting. Oh, this is the wrong one. This is a different one. This is the one we're getting to after. But anyway, let me download this one so they can see. So this one's all about the moon and the sun being different sizes, and
so they're basically like lesson plans.
Lesson plans, like for teachers. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, gotcha.
And they come with little clickable links that you could, have downloadable worksheets for the kids. Which this didn't surprise me.
Yeah, they certainly make it easy for teachers.
Yeah. And I wasn't surprised at this. That's something I would expect them to do in school. I think we did something like it ourselves.
Learn about the moon, learn about the stars, whatever.
Right. But again, it goes back to that whole idea of, the fact that we landed on the moon being implanted in our heads at a young age, so that you never think twice about do people live on spheres.
Right, and not only just implanted, but, well, actually, along with implanted, only implanted, because if children were shown the video footage, I don't think it would have the same effect.
I doubt they're showing the video in schools.
They're just saying, oh, the people think it's fake. Ha ha ha. Oh, yeah, because it really happened. But they never saw any of the footage, obviously.
Right. And as I went down here further, I saw this Lessons in Perspective, and that's the one we're going to get to that is crazy. Mm-hmm. But we're going to start first with these videos that you could download where it was talking about our place in space and where we are. And so let's watch a little bit of this first video. And it is two kids. I think they're being instructed by their teachers, or I'm not really sure exactly who they are.
That's what we thought. Like, to me, I thought it was the teacher and their students, but
I guess turn this up a little bit for you.
Be deeper, and then the more massive it is, the deeper the pit, until they come to the black hole, and there's no bottom to it.
Excellent. There's one more thing I wanted you to observe, and that is what happens to the smaller object as it approaches the larger object.
It's going to crash into the sun.
Can you see what it's doing?
This is sad for me.
Yeah.
And again, this isn't even shocking. We kind of could expect this, but shocking comes in a little bit. But look at these poor kids struggle with the fact that you see what's happening there. Yeah, I just saw the planets crash into the sun.
You just be like, what is this supposed to show me?
Try it again. You try it.
Like, teacher, are we trying to get these to orbit this big thing, or what?
Sort of bounces.
So
Yeah, it sort of bounces.
And then as it gets closer, you'll notice, just pay attention to the way it's orbiting, the size of its
Kind of
orbit.
goes like more of a back and forth instead of a circular.
Right, so that's called an ellipse. And also notice what happens to the smaller object. Watch its speed, so to speak.
Okay.
It goes faster because there's less area to.
That's right.
Hi, Mike.
That's right? I don't think so.
So then this one's a little bit longer. And I think the important things to watch are, number one, the teachers don't have a clue. They are looking at their paperwork. They're acting like they know, but they really kind of don't.
You can see the struggle.
You can see the struggle in
Yeah.
everybody.
And everybody is having problems with it.
And then
but-
one of the kids asks a pretty smart question here, which is, well, why don't the planets crash into the sun?
Yeah.
And their answer for that is because, oh, well, the little piece of plastic that everything's on has friction. So the planets going around it slow down. Then a few minutes later, they're asking him, well, why does everything orbit the sun? And he says, well, because of the dent it put in the fabric, into the plastic. And she's like, yes. So does that make sense to anybody? If planets go around and they don't have any friction
In space.
in space, and that's what causes them to keep orbiting
In
then
elliptical form.
in elliptical form, then you can't say that the reason they orbit is because of the dent that the sun puts in the fabric that you just said doesn't exist in space, which is what you can't have both.
No, and it's not a good way to show something in reality, because it's like we were talking about this. You can show, if I'm talking about orange juice and how to make orange juice, and I give you a pineapple and show you how to make pineapple juice, I'll be like, here, this is how you make, here's how to make orange juice. Now,
And hopefully the
This
kid would
is-
look at you with a shocked look on his face, like, I don't understand what we're doing here. Why not just give me an orange?
yeah, just give me an orange and make
Alright.
orange juice.
And we're gonna be doing gravity wall today.
I'm Tressa, and this is...
See, it's not Halle Berry.
And look at
Her name's Pressa.
Okay, good.
Bill. And we just wanted to ask you boys a couple of questions today. First of all, what grade are you in?
9.
Right? Okay. So...
I'll have to rewind it. Did the kid look to the other kid for the answer?
Look, Bill. And we just wanted to ask you boys a couple of questions today. First of all, what grade are you in?
9.
He's probably like, are you going to answer or me? I'm hoping.
Boys know what's at the center of the solar system? Do you know why the planets revolve around the sun?
Because of that gravitational pull.
The gravitational pull of
The sun.
the sun. Okay.
Very important, ladies and gentlemen. The sun is at the center of the solar system because of the gravity pull of the sun.
Yeah.
Don't forget. It's
Gravity
really important.
pull of the good
Very important to
children.
your daily lives.
Okay, well, we're going to do a little bit of a demonstration, and you're going to learn a little bit about why our solar system is organized the way it is.
Because it doesn't make sense otherwise.
Okay, so here we have a gravity well, and basically what we have is a hula hoop with some shrinking film on top, and then
That
we've used
represents space
styrofoam
really well.
cups, medium-sized styrofoam cups, to create
The four
base
pillars.
for the
Dark
lab.
matter.
Here we go. And we also have ball bearings of various sizes and mass.
Representing the
First
planets.
thing
and
we want to
everything.
demonstrate is a little bit about Newton's laws of motion. So, Bill, do you want to do the first law?
First law.
So everything that's in motion will remain in motion.
Except for if it hits the side of the hula hoop.
What direction it's moving until it's stopped by an outside force, in this case, the rim of the hula hoop.
There you go. Good proof.
And things at rest will stay at rest. As you can see, my ball bearing will not move unless I
Jeez,
apply
Newton was a
force.
genius.
In this case, rolling it across.
Oh, okay.
Items at rest will stay at rest.
Oh. Even if someone tells you it's not at
Why?
rest?
Mhm.
Okay.
The solar system is organized the way it is. So we're going to release a few of our ball bearings, place it in motion. What if you boys can actually see that when these objects are quite small, that what would happen if we introduced a much larger object to space? Can you see what's happening?
Yeah.
They all crash.
Now, we said the sun
Pulls
have
them
a very
in.
strong gravitational pull. So
Yeah.
if for a moment you can imagine that that is the sun, and it's at the center of our solar system, you can see that it's a much larger object. It's actually what we call bending or warping space. And you have smaller objects in our solar system, like our planet Earth, or Mars, for example.
You cannot
And if you
demonstrate the
release
solar
those, you can
system.
just roll them along the
So
gravity well, you'll observe that they're immediately attracted to
Mm-hmm.
the sun.
Because
Again,
of the
like, that has a lot
incline.
to do
Tink,
with
tink,
the
tink,
amount
tink.
of bending that's occurring.
I'm on fire.
as the object.
Why is it that
There you go, kid.
Earth and Mars don't sort of crash into the sun?
Yeah,
It's a
great
very good
question. Yeah, why not teach?
The reason is a big difference between what we're seeing here and what is actually happening in space.
Then why are we showing the kids that?
These spheres, as they move around on the plastic, experience friction. Friction robs them of their energy of motion, and they spiral in. In reality, in space, there is no friction. So once
In reality, in space, there is no plastic,
Mm-hmm.
so there can't be an indentation, which causes
the
the planets
elliptical
to go around it.
In an elliptical. Now,
planets
but
start
also-
orbiting around, they tend to stay.
I think, and you said it earlier too. The whole, she's demonstrating ellipticals at least until they crash into the middle, and the dude is saying that with no friction, that's what causes ellipticals. So how is that a great way to teach these kids what's happening in
It's
space?
not. They would be perfect circles if
Stay
it was
in their orbit,
Right.
unless, of course, a big mass comes along and distorts it.
This is good to teach kids. Here we go. Yeah, see, doesn't that make sense? Look at this one. It's stuck to there and then crashes into the sun.
If
This
you
one here
look
crashes
very
into the sun.
carefully, you can see that as the ball, or as the sphere moves closer towards the larger object, you'll
No.
notice that it's also exerting its own force.
Okay,
on that
pause it
object.
for a
Can you-
second.
Can you see the wobble?
So what I said earlier too, I think this is important because if schools weren't if sending your kids to school was not the law, and schools were responsible for
They had to, like,
putting
audition?
out videos, put out videos or ads or whatever to try and sell you on sending your kid here. Like, here's why you should send your kid here. Well, this is why your kid needs education. And this was one of the videos.
Well, these parents would have no kids
I'd be
in
like,
this class.
no, thank you. I don't know what my kid
I'll
is
pass.
learning
That's
here.
how they discover planets in other solar systems.
How?
They observe stars
Mm-hmm.
that have that irregularity, that wobble, and they know that there's a very large
Because you can see
object
stars
that's
wobble
orbiting
with your
them,
telescopes.
Yep.
that sphere, or that star.
Stop trying to make it. This is really bad. This is really sad.
Crash, burn.
Again,
Crash.
as Phil said, because of friction, they're
Right,
all
the
falling
friction.
towards the center. And sometimes the gravity wells that you see at the mall,
No.
They have these at the
they
mall.
usually have the bottom cut out of it to demonstrate what black holes. Do you know what a black hole is, by the way?
It's sort of hazy. I have an idea, but
What are your ideas?
Sort of.
It's sort of hazy for Stephen Hawking. Okay, don't ask kids what a black hole is.
Yeah,
I've heard that
nobody
it's just
knows.
like, sort of like a vacuum, a hole in space, and it sucks things up.
For example, if this was a really heavy ball,
Mhm.
what would happen to the space around it?
What's
Yeah,
happening
well,
there in front of it?
What?
It would get pulled in. So a black hole basically is a star that has died and has
Okay.
created this very large, as you said, vacuum-like.
More massive than any of these objects. The depression of the pit would be deeper, and then more massive it is, the deeper the pit, until they come to the black
Oh,
hole.
boy, just fail after
Crash,
fail
crash,
after fail.
crash, crash.
It's like that game you play online, like try and add a planet.
Yeah, universe destruction or
One
something.
thing I
Universe
wanted to
playground or
observe,
something.
And that is what happens to the smaller object as it approaches the larger object.
What happens? Crash.
So,
But
so
are-
the plastic bending
Can you
is
see what it's
gravity,
doing?
The fabric of space-time.
but that's gravity because without the big
Wanna try it
ball being,
Correct.
You're
then
trying.
the
Yeah,
other
technically.
little balls wouldn't.
Yeah,
really
you
show up
you just
there.
discovered the two different types of gravity. There's Newtonian gravity, which says
Okay.
two objects have gravity pulling each other. Then there's the fabric of space-time, which is Einsteinian gravity, which
Okay.
they think
they
is
use
the truth.
both.
Yeah, they use Newtonian
Depending
for
on what
like
you're talking
on-Earth
about.
stuff, and
Okay.
Einstein for the it's all piecemeal.
Hmm.
There you go. These kids are having
Sort
fun.
of bounces.
Sort
orbiting
of
the
bounces.
larger object. And then as it gets closer, you'll notice, just pay attention to the way it's orbiting, the size of its
Kind of
orbit.
goes
Didn't we ever hear this part?
Yeah, we did. I guess fast forward to where she says the question in the end.
I think it's at
just
the
by
end.
chance. Would it take?
Oh, he just asked.
And basically, it's an extrapolation going what we did here, the light, the heavy, and then taking it to the extreme.
If another planet came too close to the moon, just by chance, would it take the moon away from?
Okay, so he's
Yeah.
asking the same question I asked. If if another planet comes close, is it going to take the moon away? Edit.
Then they don't even answer, do they?
What's at the center of the solar system?
The sun.
You graduate. Way to go.
Here's your diploma. Look, he's all smiling. and happy.
PhD. He said the sun.
And why?
And why?
Because it creates its own sort of warp in space.
Orbit.
Right,
Orbit
that
has
makes sense.
a greater mass,
That's correct.
so that it creates a larger
Poor
warp
kids.
or
Absolutely.
orbit.
Well,
Yep. This plastic that we showed you that doesn't exist in space is the cause of one thing that doesn't exist in space, and it is
Look at
actions.
that, so bad.
Let's throw them the other way. Let's crash them into the center. These kids are very smart
understand
now.
why
though.
they're falling towards the center?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
gravity is pulling them.
Well,
I guess.
it's,
Well-
well, normally they would just sort of stay in motion, but again,
Yeah.
as Phil explained, right now the balls are rubbing against the film, so there's a little bit of friction going on, and that's actually,
So,
they're losing energy, and that's why they're falling
Okay,
towards
yeah.
the center.
so if the sun
They
He
cut
was
that
about
out
to
too.
ask a question.
Oops,
He was
sorry,
probably
another video.
asking a really good question. Like, so if the sun is pulling the planets around it, where did she ask the question? Hold on. Because she said, if we were to show this, if we were to have this experiment in schools, would this help you learn about the solar system?
Oh yeah, I forgot where that was.
I don't know, but that's where we realized, oh, this isn't in a classroom. This is like a testing ground
Right.
of like, what should we put in schools? What will indoctrinate kids the best?
So that was the first thing we saw.
That was huge. I was like, what?
We're like, this is
It
pretty
made
crazy.
me sick to my stomach because that experiment is not an experiment when it has nothing at all to do with their model.
But I certainly would have never made a video about that,
No,
or even
never.
talked about it. I just thought it
Never.
was expected. So let's continue. So as I went on, I saw this one here. This is for high school kids, and I saw lessons in perspective. Okay, and so I said, "Oh, perspective. They're going to teach. I want to learn about perspective. Let me, jump in there and see what goes on."
Let's see how they teach kids about perspective in school.
Right. So here's where I lost my mind. We're going to start reading this together. This is lessons in perspective. This is something they're teaching your kids in the public school system, and this explains the problem with the world. So how the greatest achievement and worst atrocity of the 20th century are related. History and space science. Okay. Grade level 7 and 8. By the end of this lesson, students will be able to understand the issues relating to the concept of whether or not the ends justify the means. Okay. Understand that their perspectives and perceptions may be shaped by selective use of data and facts in books, magazine articles, TV shows, internet websites that they encounter. They'll have a better appreciation for the work that both scientists and historians must do in making informed decisions and judgments. Understand how a person or a historical figure might be regarded as a hero by some and a villain by others, and understand how one individual can be connected to the atrocities of the Holocaust as well as lead a pivotal role in getting mankind to the moon.
Okay, let's reflect on all those real quick. Just for a little bit.
Well,
The first one is understand the issues relating to the concept of whether or not the ends justify the means.
Right.
So,
can we cause false flags because it takes guns away from citizens?
or
Do the ends justify the
right.
means?
Does the initial adjustment, the pain people go through, is that okay because it's for the common good and the progression of science?
Right.
You know?
So we see a lot of this in the world today. People who think it's okay to do this because in the end it's going to be better, or you think, or you hope. Where I wasn't taught that way. I was never taught that
never.
kind of thing.
Oh,
So-
the second one. Let's just
go
look.
ahead.
There's a couple ones that were important. Like have a better appreciation for the work that both. So is that basically saying like people were losing appreciation for science and history?
Right.
Yes.
And
or they just
again-
expect that because it's a factless and
Hopefully,
empty.
I think people at this point know what this paper is getting at just because of the last one.
Yeah, really.
You know? I mean, who is
definitely.
connected with the atrocities of the Holocaust and at the same time led a pivotal role in getting mankind to the moon? You should
Yeah.
know who that is. And you can start to see the idea of maybe what this paper is getting at. And if it is getting at that, you should be shocked.
Yeah, and well, actually, it's funny because those two events or whatever that they're mentioning there
Mhm.
to people like us who recognize that it's evil all around, like those two things, because the moon landing was not real. Like, of course, it would have been an atrocity that relates to this supposed achievement, but they're going to make it look like the atrocity was justified rather than the real connection is that they were
They're-
both by evil things and they're both
Not even the way they teach them.
not even the way they teach them. Yeah.
So the summary of the lesson is through the use of anticipatory set or hook do now, students will be introduced to the nuance and complexity of the issue of whether or not the ends can be justified by the means. The students will then read the short biographies of two scientists, Mr. X and Mr. Y, making a judgment about them as heroes or villains. The students will discover in the end that the two individuals are the same, Dr. Werner von Braun. Let's continue. So the activity is students will be given a do now dilemma and write a sentence or two whether or not they believe the end justifies the means. And then the students will read the short biographies of the two Wernher von Brauns. They will be asked whether or not they're getting their sources from primary sources, witnesses, secondary sources, websites. And then they will talk about what happened to Mr. X after he was captured. Why did Mr. Y? What did he do before working at NASA? Then the brainstorming session could include topics such as, do ethical concepts concerning means and ends change during times of war and peace? This is what they're teaching people, is that do the ethical concepts concerning means and ends change during times of war and peace? They don't.
They don't.
You,
They're saying
you drop bombs on people, you drop bombs on people.
it
It's
doesn't
wrong.
mean that it's okay because it's during wartime.
Well, Mr. President told me I had to go to war and drop bombs on this poor country because they've been, they're questioning or they're infringing on my country, on my peace, on my. It's so ridiculous.
And if people haven't seen yet that science, well, I mean, one of science's biggest phrases that they use or biggest things they stand on is that they are not like religion. Like religion is the worst,
Right.
But what they're describing here is exactly what the Bible and religious people support is, well, what doesn't matter what God does because it's for us in the end.
Oh, you get that
for
all at
his
the end.
plan.
Or
you know.
it's not. He didn't kill babies. It was judgment.
It was right, exactly. Just they're justifying just
We're not
as much.
killing a third world country. We're judging the evil that they do on us, even though there's not such thing, and they just make it up.
Right. So the science is just like religion. It's no different. So don't buy any of that crap when you hear that.
So it says the students will return to the classroom and discuss their findings with the instructor. The students will be asked to make refinements to their original judgments. Remember, by the way, this comes all from a NASA site.
Yes.
You remember that.
And if people think, well, NASA doesn't have anything to do with,
Oh, no, they do.
education. No, they are the education system.
Yeah, it is expected that students will have a better appreciation of some of the work and skills that historians are trained to do. It is expected that the students will find that making historical judgments can be a complex and difficult task. Like, Wernher von Braun, he did enslave people. He did force them against their will to build rockets, but he did cause people to go to the moon. So you better learn which of those is worse. And in America's mind, it's okay that you kill people and that you run a slave camp as long as you send people to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's continue. And you'll see that we're not reading into this at all. This is what this is what they're teaching kids.
It is horrifically plain and simple the way they are boldly and I guess you could say painstakingly just saying everything straight up in here.
So then you got this section basically saying you can also send them to these websites so that they can learn about V2 rockets and World War II. The websites give a short biographical sketch of Wernher von Braun, how he went into the Alabama Hall of Fame in 1969, mention his connection to the atrocities associated with the concentration camps of World War II. This site is a good example, archives.org.
Hold on. What did you
archives
say right there? He was put into the Hall of Fame. This was way before. Oh, no, he was put into the Hall of Fame in 1969. So when they went to the moon or after?
Probably right when they went to the moon.
Okay,
Probably
because
for
I was
that
going to
reason.
say, if he was put in the Hall of Fame before they went to the moon, then that's a problem. Then that's not a good thing. He was put in there before he even made
Didn't
his
he?
achievement. Yeah.
The websites associated with NASA have an extensive and pro-biography of Wernher von Braun. There is some mention of his work during World War II, but the picture is painted of him as more of a Nazi resistor, which he clearly was not. These sites discuss the issue of Wernher von Braun's association with the Nazi Party. The third site is interesting because of the nature of the group that created the site. The anti-socialist bias of the group could be used in a lesson to teach students how to judge and evaluate the objectivity of websites when accessing data. So it's okay if a site is pro-Wernher von Braun. NASA site is okay, it paints him in a pro, but then it says, but make sure that you teach them about the objectivity of the site that has a pro-socialist group. And likewise, the fourth site may have a problem with its objectivity. It has information about a witness to the atrocities of the NASA rocket factory, but the website is associated with the moon hoax conspiracy theory that insists that man did not walk on the moon.
Teaching kids to avoid. Those are your red flags.
And it's so funny. I was telling my wife, there's this kid that was Skyping me for a while. He's a kid. He's like in high school. And he so clearly, at this point, I realize he was taught what his feelings towards it.
Yeah.
Dude, everything you say is just conspiracy theory. Everything you're saying. I'm like, yeah, it's a conspiracy that has evidence. It's no longer a theory. It's a
Yeah.
conspiracy.
But what he demonstrates in his attitude towards it is, dude, I heard about you in school. My teacher told me about you guys. You guys believe the moon landings were a hoax. Like,
Yeah.
dude, you're not even doing any sort of critical thinking on your own. You were told, oh, I should be afraid of you guys because you guys are going to be trying to steal me away from my education. sort of thing.
Yeah, so look at these standards that are going to be covered in this lesson. I just told you basically the whole lesson. So let's see, what things have students learned? Well, they learned that evidence, models, and explanation. They learned science and technology and society and history of science. The students will create a graphic organizer based upon the two scientists, and they'll be asked to make a judgment on whether or not they consider the scientists to be heroes or villains. The students will be able to show their evidence of understanding about the concept of how much selection of data can affect personal historical perspectives
Yeah.
and perspectives by expanding the graphic organizers and collecting additional information about Mr. X and Y.
Does that apply to the education system's selective use of data to form children's views of history?
No. It's only sites that think of moon hoaxes.
Oh, got you. You have to select the correct data, which we tell you which is the correct and which is not correct.
So this is where they tell you the biography of Mr. X and Mr. Y. Mr. X says that Mr. X was a rocket scientist that worked for Germany in World War II. He designed and helped build two rocket-propelled weapons that were launched against England. The weapons were the V1 and V2, and the V stands for vengeance. The weapons killed people and did a lot of damage to buildings in London. Mr. X was a member of the SS, an elite and highly trained group of officers that were primarily responsible for the main atrocities committed during World War II. It wasn't us. It wasn't cutting off the supply of trains that brought all the food to the people in the camps.
Don't mention that part.
It was slave camps, but it was not extermination camps.
Jeez.
Mr. X built his rockets using slave labor from nearby concentration camps. Many laborers who broke rules were killed. At least they tell them the truth. Laborers who became too ill to work were taken to a camp where they were left to die without any medical attention. Mr. X was captured by the American soldiers at the end of the war.
Now, why was there no medical attention, and why were they ill? Oh,
Yeah.
Because we weren't giving them food anymore, or we shut off their
Supply lines, yeah.
supply lines.
Mr. Y was a naturalized citizen of the United States in the yeah, this is what they need to tell those kids. Yeah, we gave him, after his war crimes, citizenship. Smart. Mr. Y was a naturalized...
They sort of breeze over that we actually... Let's bring him under our wing, this murderer.
And we saw that when Larry Silverstein was having trouble filling his tenants at that building,
Yeah.
that the people used a clause in the American law which allows for people to come into America, they get pushed right to the top of the list. They get their citizenship right away if they pay $500,000 each. And remember, it said that's how he brought people in.
God damn it.
Mr. Y was a naturalized citizen of the United States. In the 1950s, he designed and built many rockets that were tested by the American military and were used to launch the first satellites that the United States launched into space. He designed and helped build the Redstone rocket and was used by Alan Shepard, who was the first American in space. Mr. Y designed the Titan rocket that was used by the Mercury and Gemini astronauts in the 60s to learn how to perform maneuvers in space that would be needed to get mankind to the moon. Mr. Y is most famous for designing and building the Saturn V rocket that was used to get Apollo astronauts to the moon and back. Mr. Y received more than 50 honorary awards and more than 20 honorary degrees. So what they're doing is, because in this whole revealing that we've been a part of, that started way before us, Bart Seibel, Aaron Rainin,
Yep.
does his research and finds out that Werner von Braun, without a doubt, in interviewing people, was there, did see people die, did order it, was a part of the SS, was a part of killing people, was a part of slave labor, didn't care. There's paperwork that even says, don't tell people about it because it wouldn't be seen as good.
Yep.
So now here's the problem that you should just lose your mind on. The do now dilemma. You hear that your friend that lives next door is going to ride her bike across town after school so that she can participate in a fight against kids from another school. You're afraid that she might get in trouble and possibly injured. So, after school you hurry home and you puncture her tires so that she can't make the trip. When she asks you about her bike, you tell her that you don't know anything about how the tires went flat, but will help her repair them. Was it okay for you to flatten her tires in order to keep her from getting hurt or getting into trouble? Unbelievable.
So this is at the end of the lesson plan, basically.
That's the end.
This is their activity. So this is the goal of the lesson, is to teach kids, it's okay to lie as long as it's for the other person's good. But then who's to decide what's the end goal and if it's good or not?
I mean, this is where it pisses me off, is that as much as I have against the way Christianity has become, I was raised a Christian. I would have never been presented a situation like that and thought that it was best to pop the kid's tire. I said, no, tell an adult. I don't know, I should
Go
convince
to your
her.
friend.
Have a conversation
straight up.
about the pros and cons, about going and fighting the other school. What are the negatives that can happen?
Yeah.
What are the positives? What good can come of it, Mary?
Yeah.
Mary, if you're going to go get in a fight, what good can come of it? Wouldn't
Yeah.
it be better to stay home and not get in trouble? Don't get suspended. Don't get grounded. and then you convince the person. And if they go out and they fight, then they're going to learn the hard way that it would have been
right.
better for them to listen to you.
Right.
That's what we need to be teaching kids, not pop their freaking tires so that they can't go to the fight and then say, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. It wasn't me.
And what does that produce? It produces a child like the girl who will continue to try and do things like get into fights because.
What did you do? You temporarily stopped it for a day?
You're not even telling. They even tell these children or tell children to lie say, I have no idea what happened. Well,
unbelievable.
How are you going to teach somebody that something is wrong? I mean, you're not teaching that girl anything but just to, oh no, my tire popped, so I'm going to try and go fight tomorrow. And like, what if your friend's not around to pop your tires? Like, you're not teaching them anything. You're teaching them how to be robots of like a rut, which is really what's happening. Oh my gosh.
Sickening.
But you're really, when we were watching earlier today, or just a couple hours ago, that somewhat debate of videos with Flat Earth Math and Jibby or whatever. And the way Flat Earth Math was, all he was doing the whole time was justifying. Yeah, the evidences were like, oh, whatever, but that's how he was raised, and he was indoctrinated to justify anomalies as they are. He calls
it think rationally.
Right. Oh,
think
what you were talking about earlier.
You got to think rationally. You can't
critically.
Critically, it's not possible that they lied to us. So therefore, whatever they show must have a reason that can be explained through another way.
And why do I believe that? Because that's what I was taught in school.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't know it was like this.
Because nobody gets in conspiracy. Nobody's ever teamed up behind your back. That reminds me of the other thing. They actually had a study the other day that talked about the percentage of time that secrets are told, and that you can't possibly hold a secret from anybody because they have this graph that tells you how often they're told. Think of that, folks. How would you know if somebody has this? I have 10 secrets right now that I've never told anybody. How would they know that as part of the test? You ask people.
You would never know the secret.
How do you know that? It doesn't make any sense.
Dumb.
You wouldn't know if there was secrets. Well, there can be no conspiracy because every conspiracy has been discovered. Oh, really? Has it?
Every single one
because
that you were
mean
told
everyone
about?
that's been discovered has been discovered? No shit. You wouldn't know if somebody had a secret they hadn't told yet.
Right.
It is insane what they're teaching kids.
They don't teach kids how to recognize a deception, that's for damn sure.
So if you want to have some fun, go to the site. Those are the first 2 lessons I've learned. I'm actually scared to continue them because I'm assuming every one of these is ridiculous.
You know, what we just read in that one lesson plan it's just funny being on the other side because they indoctrinate into children the achievements in space. They are top of the line. Like, they pretty much describe the lowest of the low, which was supposedly, I'm not supposedly, whatever, murder of millions of people, hundreds of thousands, maybe whatever. They compared that to, so that's like the extreme low. And then they're saying that whatever happens in space, that spacefaring nations, space ships and space satellites are wonderful achievements.
Does the end justify the means? The correct answer is they think is yes.
Yeah, but on the other side, we think that those are not great achievements. So really, it's not accomplishing anything. So
that's what I mean. But they're even saying even if they did accomplish it, even if they did go to the moon, even if they were flying in space, even if we did have a robot in Mars, it doesn't justify taking somebody that was a war criminal and not punishing them.
Right.
Don't these kids ask the question of, excuse me, teacher, so you said he murdered people, that he was responsible for slave labor, that he did all these wicked things, dropping bombs on London. Mm-hmm. Why didn't he go to jail where we send people who do stuff like that? Oh, because it was very important that he developed rockets for us to get to the moon. That's what they have to teach. This is what they're teaching kids.
So, teacher, we reward people who do bad things. Okay, thanks. I'll take that into my future careers in life.
And this is the world that we have. We have people that don't care about
backstabbing people.
Right, that don't care about lies because I can tell lies now because I'm going to be rich tomorrow.
Yep.
What difference does it make if I tell a lie today? I'm going to give money back to the community when I become rich for stepping on people and telling lies today.
And if you have a child who's like a teen right now and in going to school, I can almost guarantee you that you are experiencing, if you're the parent, you're experiencing this sort of behavior from your child. Almost lying probably to you almost every day about little things, and probably in their minds, because they're being indoctrinated to do so, they think it's okay because it's not affecting my mom and dad. It doesn't affect them. It's just my thing that I have to deal with.
And this creates a disconnect between parents and kids.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I wasn't taught this way, you weren't taught this way.
Yeah.
people can make up their own mind whether or not they were taught this way. I certainly was never taught that it was okay to pop kids' bike tires
No.
because in the end they didn't go get in a fight. When my parents would say, "Dipshit, why don't you have a conversation with them?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell them the pros and cons with what they're about to do, and that you're not going to get involved with that because you see what could happen." You see, I tell my kid all the time, he'll throw a screwdriver up in the air in the front yard for no damn reason. It'll go flying and it'll land far away from me, but I have to tell him, dude, what good can come of that? What could possibly happen that's good for anybody by you throwing a screwdriver up in the air? Didn't hit anybody. Didn't hit anybody. Yeah, it didn't hit anybody. But could it have landed on the ground and broke a concrete open and there would be a bunch of money under it? No. So there's nothing that could happen in the world ever. Throw it up a zillion times, nothing good will ever happen. But what bad can happen? You might throw it near me. It hits me in the head, hits you in the head, hits the car, breaks something, hurts a cat. Who knows?
But your children aren't hearing you because what you're saying is not matching their indoctrination.
Yeah, he was taught that, it's just crazy.
Yeah, our kids are being taught. Sorry, our children are being taught. Oh, certain.
Tell them why you
ways
don't say
to
that
live.
word.
Oh, I don't say kids because it is a word that is used by the
Elite.
the elite, the pedophiles, whatever, as a mind control word, as a demeaning and belittling. And you are
Because it means like a goat.
a baby
Yeah,
goat.
Baby goat.
So say children if you want to.
Don't say the K word anymore.
Yeah.
Say children.
But this is where I think the conflict is very apparent with parents. This is where it lies. Is parents have a hard time at home raising their children when they've come home from school being indoctrinated in a way that the parents have no idea. So I think it's very important that parents realize what their children are actually being taught in school, because I think if parents knew that this was happening, it would be a totally different story. Like I think parents would be either taking their kids out or having questions, talking to the school. Like I can't raise my child at home to be good to their brothers and sisters, to treat their friends with respect, not to steal, not to lie. I can't teach them those things and expect them to learn them if they're being taught lies and deception in school, and how to deceive and how to justify what they're doing. So, I mean,
and this started in
parents
2006.
should be rioting.
That's 10 years ago. Why do you think Red's rhetoric is the way he is?
Exactly.
That's exactly when these
Why
kids
do you think every blockheaded, every closed-minded person who just fights the globe is that way? It's because of this stuff. I didn't know that
You mean
this was
fights
actually
for the globe?
For it. Yeah, sorry, fights for it.
And
I didn't know
another
this
funny
stuff was
thing is you'll
happening.
notice here that this is funded by a grant from Toyota, because Toyota cares whether or not kids are believing things.
Yeah,
This is crazy. Look at this. So I just went to another one. It's called Layers of the Moon, and it gets up here and it says that unlike the Earth's rocky lithosphere, the Moon's is very thick, composed of solid rock about 1,000 kilometers thick. We've only dug 8 miles deep in the Earth, so how far have we dug in the Moon? I think I've seen those guys put a stick about a foot in the Moon. It says over this crust,
maybe 5 feet.
maybe 5 feet. The crust of the Moon is richer in titanium and aluminum than Earth's crustal rocks. The crust varies in its depth and is 60 kilometers on the side of the Moon facing the Earth and 150 kilometers on the backside of the Moon. Yeah, because we know that, because we know we went there, remember?
Wait, so the inside of the Moon is maybe like an egg yolk, where one layer is
Yeah,
thicker
it's like a
than the
little
other?
fuller on one side.
Okay, all right.
The reason for this is probably related to the Earth's gravitational pull. Dense lunar material
Probably.
was attracted by the Earth's gravitational pull and pulled it closer to the side of the Moon facing the Earth. This made the mantle, the lithosphere, a little bit off-center, while the crust moves slowly away, leaving the crust thicker on the side with the Moon facing away from the Earth. Isn't this easy?
So a question on a test, if they asked,
This is telling kids we already know what the Moon is,
Yeah.
that we know what it's made of, that, oh
go
man.
back
it's
up
just-
to where it said something probably, like about the probably thing, or it's probably, oh yeah, right there. So if this was a question on test, is the reason for the Earth's gravitational pull,
and then the answer gets to be probably?
yeah, is that a great
That's what they want kids to
question?
answer, yeah. Probably.
Probably. Okay, good. You got that right. That's the right
science
answer.
should not even be about, there should not be a right and wrong in science. It should be about investigation, research.
Are you investigating correctly? Well,
Right.
Correct.
Well, I'm talking about a real school. I mean, it's never going to work in this school because they'll
You
just
can't
change
fix
their lesson plans to
Obviously,
fit their needs. Yeah.
yeah. As things start to rise up, against their falsities, they're just going to make lesson plans that show kids how to avoid those things.
Look at the Moon. How pretty. This is the
Is that
crust.
supposed
This
to be a
is
3D image?
a asthenosphere. Yes, because the moon is 3D. You know.
What's the difference between the green dots and the gray dots?
Uh,
Craters that are different.
The Sea of Marantia and the
Oh,
I don't know, something else. Oh boy. Well, I don't think there was anything else we wanted to say. We just wanted to show you the.
just wanted to tell you if you're a parent or if you're gonna be having a child in the near future, or if you are struggling with
Don't. Oh,
with
sorry.
raising your child right now and you're wondering why, I would say make a stink at your school or pull them out, or I don't know. I'm not telling you to do anything. Don't hold me to like Melissa told me to do something. You should never do anything because I said
No,
to do
don't
it.
believe us. Don't trust us. Do whatever you want.
But research this and look at this, and you come to the conclusion: is my child's behavior, or is the reason why children in general that we see on TV, we see out in the public or whatever, could this be the reason why there's so much
yeah, they're being
wall
taught.
being
Yeah,
put up?
they're being taught a different way than we were.
A
and
horrible, I think, satanic way of living.
Well, and that's what it does. Is it creates problems between parents and
Yes.
students because you've got kids coming home. The parents think I've always thought, well, he's being taught the same way I was,
right.
so he must just be being a jerk, or he doesn't
He must have
understand how things work.
ADHD. He must
Right.
need some
But if they're teaching kids
medication.
pop tires at school, then it makes sense to me that my son,
Yep.
What did he do? He stole $100 from a kid,
Mm-hmm.
and the parent said that, it's because my son said he would pay him $20 each week over the next 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
And then he also said he was going to buy him a skateboard, but he ended up actually using the money to buy candy from the ice cream shop.
spent $100 or $80 at the Shell, then spent $20 at the ice cream truck, and then the ice cream truck basically drove in a circle around our block for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Just playing the music loud in front of our
Waiting,
house,
like,
like,
what
where's
if their
that kid with the
kids-
$20? I got more ice cream here.
He's the only person that buys the Mary candles that we have in the back of the truck.
He didn't really buy one of those.
No, the Mary bracelets. Sorry, a little different. But
All
really,
right, guys.
this is the core of it, and it shocked us, and we thought other people should hear it. So if you aren't a parent, share it with one of
Someone who
your friends
is.
that is a parent, because this is important.
Because the end justifies the means, and that means that as long as you develop rockets and get people to the moon, it's okay to kill people, especially
No.
if they're just the lowly Jews.
No, and then you can explain to these people that you're sharing this video with that the moon landings were not real,
Right.
and
then
that
go
those
into
are
that story.
not achievements.
Then tell them space is fake,
Those are not worth the means.
and laugh at them when you ask them how far the nearest star is, and they say whatever number they say. They won't get it right, but
You can tell them,
you say it's supposed to be 25 trillion miles, and then just die laughing, roll on the floor, roll around, and then.
but then say, "But I love you, so you should not believe what you're told."
Yeah, don't believe that anymore. Tell them that. All right, guys. Yeah, we have our show tomorrow night. Check that out. 6
remember-
o'clock Eastern
What, our show? Oh,
Mhm.
yes. Mhm.
on True Frequency Radio. And then after that, you can check in on Monday night for Alt News.
Tuesday night. You said Monday night.
Oh, check in Tuesday night.
Okay, so tomorrow night, which is Monday, which is every Monday,
Yes.
truthfrequencyradio.com is us live at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Nope. 6 p.m. Pacific time.
Wow, did I say Eastern?
You did.
Really? I think it's because it said p.m., and I thought maybe that was
No,
coming out
that's
of Pacific
p.m.
time.
Pacific time. 9 p.m. Eastern.
Okay, I'm
Then
screwing up
8
everything.
o'clock on Tuesday
Monday nights at 6 p.m.
for Alt
California
News.
time. There, that's easier.
Guys, take care of each other. Don't lie to each other. And don't teach your kids that the ends justify the means. Teach them just to be good people
Maybe
from the
we-
start.
Yeah, maybe we can all figure out a way to...
Take over the school system.
Yeah, because
right,
the school
me and you
system
will
is,
start teaching
is
tomorrow.
the system that's creating
That's the
children for
evil in the world.
system.
That's why we've got it. Is because they're teaching your kids to be evil. Peace.